a talk presented by Neste, please welcome the manager of Renewable Aviation for Neste US, Lana van Marter, in discussion with Skift senior research analyst, Seth Berko.
Hello, everybody. Hello, how are you all doing? I hope you're ready for some more sustainability. I think we had a great lead-in for this panel. We have Lana from Neste, a leader in sustainable aviation. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Seth. And this is a good opportunity to elaborate on some of the items that have actually been mentioned and discussed from the previous panels.
Yeah, I'm really excited. This is my SAF at SAF panel, sustainable aviation fuel at Skift Aviation Forum. I'm excited about it. So let's just talk about it. Let's dive right into it. What puts the S in SAF? What makes sustainable aviation fuel so sustainable? Let's set the baseline. Let's not assume we all know it. So let's explain it in clear terms. What makes it sustainable?
Yeah, sustainable aviation fuel compared to fossil fuel can reduce greenhouse gas emissions by up to 80%. It is made up of waste and residues. And right now, what is prevalent in the market is what is being produced under the ASTM HEFA process, or hydrogenated esters and fatty acids. So when this process is done, you can use used cooking oil, fats, vegetable oils, and Neste has the next BTL process that actually we produce this through that process.
And so it makes the jet fuel, I think you said 80% more sustainable
in neat form, yes.
Yes. And so then it's a great option then. There's a lot of other options out there to kind of decarbonize, to reduce your emissions. The panel before us was talking about some of those options, things like electrification, carbon offsets, hydrogen. Tell us about so there's multiple ways to be sustainable. How does sustainable aviation fuel then stack up against some of those other options?
Sustainable aviation fuel is an in-sector solution. And it is available now. Actually, almost all of the airlines that you have here right now are taking sustainable aviation fuel. It is just at the West Coast where we have the policy that supports that economically. We also have airports that are taking a sustainable aviation fuel. And we are also collecting feedstock from the airports that make it a circular economy kind of thing. And so it is a today's solution using existing infrastructure. We have actually partnered up with Delta, for example, to bring it to the Colonial Pipeline up to the wing of an aircraft at the LaGuardia Airport, for example.
Yeah, so maybe talk a little bit more about that. We heard some dates on that panel with some felt long to me, 2035, 2040, 2050. They call this a drop-in fuel, so talk a little bit more about that.
It is a drop-in fuel because you can use existing infrastructure right now, existing aircrafts, and it can get mixed with fossil fuel up to 50%, and it can go into a commingled facility in an airport. For example, we did a pilot at DFW where actually we brought sustainable aviation fuel. It went into the fuel farm, and it becomes part of the fuel supply. And at this time, it went to general aviation, but we have tested the system that you can actually put it inside the facility where it is going to be commingled with other fossil fuel.
So let's talk about that a little bit more in just a second. I do want to talk about the supply issue. We also heard that in that last panel that there's a huge opportunity for sustainable aviation fuel. It's a great way to meet emission targets. It's usable today. It's a today solution, as you put it. But there doesn't seem to be a lot of it. So what is Neste doing to ensure a greater supply of sustainable aviation?
By 2023, we will have our Singapore facility and Rotterdam facility that will have as much as 515 million gallons of sustainable aviation fuel. By 2026, we will have as much as 750 million gallons. But Neste is only one of the producers. I think our representative from Delta earlier said there has to be an inflection point.
Yeah.
So with the IRA encouraging other producers I believe that there will be other producers that will step up, and there will be more sustainable aviation fuel in the market.
And the IRA is the Inflation
Reduction Act. Yes, exactly. The Inflation Reduction Act helps to mitigate, in the next 2 years, with the blender's tax credit, helps mitigate the cost of sustainable aviation fuel.
Yeah. So I think, maybe we've got an audience of airports, airlines, just general aviation people. It seems intimidating sometimes. Like, there's so many different steps and stakeholders involved in getting sustainable aviation fuel, into the planes itself. Maybe let's talk about some of those different stakeholders. I think you were mentioning DFW earlier. We're hosted by DFW. We love them. Sean was on stage. He was talking about SAF. You were kind of very integral in bringing SAF to DFW. So you mentioned earlier. Tell us a little bit more in detail about what DFW has been doing.
Yes, DFW is the first airport actually that we have partnership with, because DFW is really #1 in sustainability globally. So we came in, went to Sean and his staff, and we made sure that we are aligned in our sustainability goals. So we actually have a company called Mahoney that collects grease from the grease trap of the concessions from DFW.
Yeah.
And this used cooking oil that you have from there becomes sustainable aviation fuel. And we were able to bring sustainable aviation fuel to DFW, although on a pilot basis, to make the circular economy happen. And we are trying to do that with other airports as well. Actually, what happened at DFW has become a model and a template for other airports. Actually, now we collect, if I could mention, grease from Chicago O'Hare, from Chicago Midland, Philadelphia, Newark, as well as from, I forgot the other one, but I think at BWI, we are actually trying to build that right now.
So it's kind of, I was reading this case study. It's kind of about getting all the different partners involved. You need to get all of those different vendors aligned. You need to have a facility to process them. You bring it all in, and then you're processing it and then using it to sell to the airline's customers, so to speak, the airlines, right?
Yes. Most airlines are actually our partners. Just like, most of them are here.
Let's talk about the airlines themselves a little bit. So, from a customer perspective, like, what do the airlines need to do to get their customers on board with sustainable aviation fuel? We just heard about that say-do gap.
Basically, the airlines are taking in their corporate clients.
Yeah.
Delta has mentioned it. I believe others, American Airlines, Southwest, as well as United, all of them are taking in the corporate clients because they are helping to pay the gap. But I believe this is going to be, extended in the future to all the travelers. Because it is something that we found in a survey we conducted, that most travelers, 40% of them, are willing to pay for a more environmentally friendly travel. And this is something that I believe would catch on, especially if we have sustainable aviation fuel more economically available and affordable.
Yeah.
And the policies that we have right now should be expanded, not just in the West Coast, but in the United States to other states. I believe other states like Oregon, Washington State are doing that. New York, for a while, has also been trying to do it. Canada, the British Columbia, as well as federally, they're also trying to do that. So policy is very important.
Feels like a movement is starting.
It is a movement. It is a collaborative effort for all the stakeholders involved.
So I want to talk about the big stakeholder of the government. Let's talk about the corporate clients maybe a little bit more. I think that's really interesting because, it's almost like SAF becomes a bit of a challenge for maybe the sales and marketing teams. Maybe it's a little bit different. Like, it's different divisions in the airline that are responsible for bringing in that SAF demand then. Would you say that's correct or?
You see, I believe it is getting integrated into the sustainability group because I've actually been invited and attended several forums with our partner airlines that actually have the corporate clients there. And they're willing to pay, they're willing to invest, they're willing to see the future. And not only with those corporate clients, but also with business aviation.
Yeah.
They are also there willing to take on sustainable aviation fuel. In fact, right now there's a high demand for sustainable aviation fuel with the upcoming skiing trips, for example, or other Thanksgiving strips that they're going to do.
So right now, there's demand for SAF coming from the corporate clients and these business clients, and they're willing to pay for it. And then to bring it a little bit broader, we're going to need maybe some government support to step in and help
absolutely,
that.
yes.
So what do you think, Neste, what do you want to see from the government to make sustainable aviation fuel really scalable?
Right now, the Inflation Reduction Act is a good opportunity because for the first time, actually, there is a provision for support for sustainable aviation fuel for the next 2 years, 2024 and 2023 and 2024. There's a flex in 2025 when it becomes a producer's tax credit. So we would like to have a longer runway for the blender's tax credit because this will allow us and other producers as well to be able to scale up more and have policy support so that it can become more affordable to the airlines. Because previously it's like $1 blender's tax credit, which was actually a provision for renewable diesel. That is an opt-in for sustainable aviation fuel. But now, with sustainable aviation fuel having more support, then it becomes more affordable and less expensive to our airline partners.
And you have some very ambitious goals. I mean, what are your goals to expand for SAF production for Neste?
Right now, we are only about 0.1% of the jet fuel demand. But eventually, we would like that to be more like 10% and more. You can see in ICAO, it's actually a big part of the sustainable solution. So not just Neste, but together with other producers and of course our partner airlines and airports. We would like that to be more than that, and by 2050, help in the net zero goal.
So we've got this goal for net zero, we've got this fuel that's available today, drop in, it requires a lot of partnerships. You've got this audience here. What would you say you would ask of the industry to make sure that we get these, what we need to provide SAF?
Policy support.
Policy
support. That will help it become more economically affordable for the airlines, for the corporate consumers and all. And also support in terms of making sure that everybody understands that's an in-sector solution. Of course, we are going to have eventually all the other technologies that will be there, but we have the solution today. We are, as Neste, we are also investing in trying to get other feedstocks, for example, power to liquid, lignocellulose stick, algae, municipal solid waste. We are also on the track of researching and making all those possibilities to make sustainable aviation fuel. But today we have a solution that is actually getting produced, getting into the wing of the aircraft. So if we have more policy support and have this done while we have this period of time, because the climate change cannot wait. Yeah. So we have to do as much as we can today, and we have it today.
I like that spirit of starting today with sustainable aviation fuel. We saw that poll in that last session. It's not behind us, but you've convinced me. Put me in the optimist category. So thank you so much for joining us, Lana. You can find her on LinkedIn, and if you want more information about Neste, you can visit neste.com. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.